Hello pilots and welcome back to another X-Wing flight video brought to you by Out of Art Gaming. We have something a little bit different for you today. We decided to go big, and by big I mean we have two 500-point lists on the table. We're going to go through those lists, but you can see them up on screen at the moment. Today, commentating this video, I am joined by...
Hi, it's Quinn. I'm back again, and yes, 500 points. That's quite large.
Yes, it is a very large game, and this has taken quite a while to put together and get to the screen for you guys, but we're very excited to go through this list. In fact, Quinn, as everyone has probably noticed, you are one of the pilots for this, and the other pilot we have today is Amy. So we're going to go through the lists and try and keep on top of this mammoth 2-hour game. Now, we are going to break this down into 3 videos. So don't worry if it suddenly stops and you're going, but it hasn't finished. There are more videos to come and they will be up in the next couple of days. But let's run through the lists. Unlike normal, we only have the names of the ships and pilots across the top and bottom. The lists will be featured in the description below, so if you are curious as to what was being flown, you can see them in the description below. But Quinn, did you want to run through the craziness that is your list?
My 6 croc list, my croc swarm as it were. So yes, those of you that play Epic may know you can actually fit 8 crocs into a list. I didn't because I wanted upgrades as well. So I've got my main one, which is the Syndicate Smugglers, comes through, they're all the same pilot. It's got Tibanna Reserves, Stalwart Captain, Corsair Refit, which is a config card for the croc, Boba Fett for some placement shenanigans, Point Defense Battery, Damage Control Team, IGRM, the Merchant 1 title, and a dorsal turret, because extra firepower. So that's just one ship. My next ship, another Syndicate Smugglers, with boosted scanners, Corsair Refit, very nasty Turbolaser Battery, and Bombardment Specialists. Another Sea-Rock with Comms Team and the Insatiable Wart title card. Another Sea-Rock with Cluster Mines, Ion Cannon Battery, and the Saboteur Map Epic exclusive illicit upgrade. Another Sea-Rock with Strategic Commander and Ion Cannon Battery. And my final Sea-Rock with Tobias Beckett to help with Boba Fett, Point Defense Battery again, and the Broken Horn title. So I've got all 3 croc titles on the board.
Which is rather impressive. And for those that you are trying to keep on top of that, they go from right to left on the screen. So it's red, yellow, green, blue, pink, and brown. But again, the list will be in the description below. Yes, 6 crocs. That's insane.
The joys of TTS, because I don't own 6 crocs, somewhat unsurprisingly, but I get to play with them, so it's great fun.
I think that potentially in our local group, we may have 4 people with crocs. I know I have. So the chance to actually use 6 on the board is not an easy one, but it does look rather menacing. And I do love your use of Tobias Beckett and Boba Fett with the red croc, giving it that little extra get in your face there, and the Saboteur Map with the cluster mines. That's kind of brutal.
Yes, a little bit of route area, whatever it's called.
Area denial.
That's the word, denial. Yeah.
No, it is very clever. I do like it. So I suppose we should have a look and see what you're up against. So we have Amy's 500 points epic list for the Imperials. We have the Outer Rim Patrol Raider-class Corvette with the optimized power core, Darth Vader, ion cannon batteries, Turbolaser Battery, Damage Control Team, and advanced Proton Torpedoes. Supporting that, we've got the Outer Rim Garrison Gozanti-class cruiser. I love the Gozanti, I will point out. I think it's a really cool model. It has the optimized power core, Tibanna Reserves, adaptive shields, Fifth Brother, ion cannon battery, damage control team, and it has the title card Vector. In support of that, we have 4 TIE fighters. We have Night Beast with the Sky Strike Academy command card, and 3 Academy TIE pilots. Those are currently docked onto the Outer Rim Garrison there. And we also have 2 TIE RB Heavies Onyx Squadron Sentries. They are running the exact same upgrades. They've both got ion cannon, heavy laser cannon, maneuver assist, MGK 300, and marksmanship. So rather a lot of things to go through there, guys. So as I said, we're going to try and keep on top of everything that's happening during the game to let you know how it's all going. But I think one of the first things we should probably talk about, for those of you that aren't as familiar with Epic, is the setup and how Epic works in comparison to your standard play. Not just in having massive ships on the board and lots of points, but there's quite a lot of interesting things there for those of you that aren't so familiar with that. So, Quinn, considering you were one of the pilots in this game, what was one of the first things that you had to... What's one of the first things that stands out to you with Epic compared to standard play?
I mean, you've got the obvious thing that the map is twice the size, so you've got more room for these huge ships. But I guess it's kind of that huge ships don't have one initiative. So,
Yes.
so the Gozanti and the Sea Rocks are 7-1, so they move at 7 but shoot at 1. So they shoot last, move last.
Yeah.
Whereas the Raider is 8-0, so it means last and shoots last because they've got such damaging salvos that it would be unfair for them to shoot anything except last, because you can fit so much horrendous amount of firepower on them. Because one thing about them is if it says bonus attack, you can do that as many times as you like. It's not like a standard game where you can have one bonus attack around. To take my red one, I think I got 5 bonus attacks on that, so that's 6 attacks a round that can do.
Yeah. Obviously, you've got to be able to have the charges to spend on that. But yeah, it is quite key. I mean, just imagine if they were to be able to shoot first before everything else. You'd be looking at it and going, well, there goes my Soontir Fel, there goes my Fen Rao, because a big ship just went no. And it kind of fits with the theme of it as well. What you've got to think is that those ships are going to take longer to acquire their target. The guns are bigger, so they're probably going to take longer to move as well. So I think fully thematically, it really does work there. And especially with the Raider being the largest ship on the board, it is going to be the slower of them.
Yes, I mean, I have the slightly unfair thing in one of my epic lists where you have one of the I6s in swarm tactics, so then your big ship does shoot first.
Swarm tactics works with one of these as well. That's insane.
It's a friendly ship, so
I like that a lot. That is rather brutal.
yes.
So yeah, I mean, that's obviously quite a big thing to remember there. Another thing which we sort of skirted on there is the way energy works for Epic, and not only that, shields. So these large ships are able to regenerate a number of shields every turn. So if you've ever come up against a Jedi or Luke Skywalker with R2-D2 or Chopper and ion torpedoes, you'll probably be familiar with shields recharging, but these ships actually have them as standard. So the Gozanti and the
Crocs all have one.
Yeah, can regenerate 1 shield a turn, whereas the Raider and the Tantive included in this as well can actually regenerate 2 shields a turn. So you've really
also
got
have
to...
more of them.
Oh yeah,
8 shields on the
Raider. Yeah, so 20 hull and 8 shields. There's no evade tokens. There's no evades unless you're outside of range 3 or obstructed. But yeah, there's 20 hull and 8 shields.
Yeah.
And those shields regenerate. It's crazy.
That's one of the good things about the Sea Rock. If you do a speed 3 to 5 maneuver, its ship ability gives you an evade dice.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
As long as you move fast, you get that 1 dice. And you get 2... Oh, another thing about these, you get 2 actions on a huge ship. You can do, as standard, you get a first action and a second action. So you almost always take a reinforce because you've got that spare action and you need it because...
Oh, yeah.
No, evade dice.
Absolutely. The reinforce on a huge ship is going to be absolutely key. So that's going to be a very strong and powerful thing to have for you. And then obviously you can take your focus, you've got your target locks, they have the jam action, and they all have the coordinate. However, the coordinate for yourself is red, unless you've got some crazy card on there.
Yes, comms team.
Yes, that's the one.
It gives you a white coordinate linked calculate, and you can spend energy to coordinate extra ships. So I think you can spend up to two energy to coordinate up to 2 extra ships.
Yeah, so after you perform a coordinate action, you may spend up to 2 energy to coordinate that many additional ships at range 0 to 1 of the ship you coordinated. So you could potentially be coordinating a wing of ships there, which is, again, another really handy move. And part of the multitude of upgrades that you can actually add to your ships. They have different types of upgrades you can add there. You've got command, cargo, hard points, which is normally your guns. You add teams to them, as well as some of the standard crew that you can add there, such as Darth Vader and Fifth Brother that we have on the Imperial side, and Tobias Beckett, Boba Fett on your side.
Yes. In Epic, every ship, regardless of size, gets a command slot. So that's like the main difference. So like even if you're not playing a huge ship 500-point game, there are still differences between Epic and Standard.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the command slots you'll find are for those wing leaders or your dreadnought hunters, so ships specifically designed to go up against those epic ships.
And the new one of the new B-wing title cards is a command, the better version.
Oh yeah, the B6 prototype, which is it's a command and config, I believe.
Command title, I believe.
Yeah. So that's again quite cool. We don't see that in here, unfortunately. It would be nice to see that card just go around and wrecking huge ships, just like in the game. Yeah.
Yes.
But we've got our first round of movement has taken place. As you can see, a lot of actions, a lot of reinforces being dealt there. So it will be interesting in a moment to see what kind of shooting we actually have. Now, the Sea-Rock and the Gozanti natively only have range 3 guns, just like your normal ships. However, the Raider actually has a range 4 gun, so we'll be able to see that one get into play a little bit sooner than the other ships.
Although I am my red one is quite close to it at the moment, as is my plan.
I mean, you just threw him straight in there. You just went all caution to the wind and got straight in there.
I mean, when you think about Epic, I worry a lot about Turbolaser Battery, because if anyone doesn't know, once Turbolaser Battery hits, it deals an additional 3 damage, which you say, that's not a lot on a huge ship, but the Sea-Rock is the wimpiest of the huge ships. Like, it has only 16 natural hit points. So, with no evade dice, that's a 3 dice attack plus 3 extra damage, but that's only available in range 3 to 5. So with Bobber, you can instantly stick it in range 3, move forward, and then you're out of range for the turbo laser. So you're kind of protecting it by being closer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very powerful card. That I mean, you say that the Sea-Rock obviously only has the 16 hit points total, but the Gozanti also only has 16 hit points. They are very similar in their chassis and frames of what they've got.
I'm led to believe thematically that the Gozanti or the Sea-Rock are the same family of ship. One is a later edition of the other, but I can't remember which way around it is. I believe the Gozanti is the evolution of the Sea-Rock.
Judging by the styles of the ship, I would say yes. The Sea-Rock definitely looks like the older style, and the Gozanti looks like, I mean, I hesitate to say it, an improvement on that.
Oh, the Gozanti is a beautiful ship. It looks amazing when you have the 4 underneath it.
Oh, yeah.
4 ties hanging underneath it. And it was nice to see it make its live-action debut as well.
Yes, it was very cool in The Mandalorian. As soon as I saw that, I was very excited. I thought that was very, very cool. And yes, you can obviously physically put 4 ships underneath it as well. It works very well with your standard ties and anything with those round cockpits. Other ones is a little bit tricky on, but it is still a very cool ship. And just quickly popping back to the game, looks like there was no actual shots from the TIE RBs there, but we are going to get our first shot from the Gozanti onto Brown.
Got my single dice.
Yeah.
Feeling confident.
Feeling very confident. So we'll see what gun Amy decides to use here, whether she decides to try and ion you or she goes for her standard gun.
I mean, she can do both because she can spend energy to use the ion as a bonus attack, I believe. Can she not?
Yes. So you can spend it as a bonus attack.
To ionize a huge ship, you need 5 ion tokens, so it's not the quickest thing in the world.
Yeah. So it looks like we're actually going for a regular shot here.
So I'm reinforced. That negates one of them.
Yeah.
And then...
what do you roll? So it looks like that was a blank. So it looks like
nothing.
just...
So Brown's
just
lost 2 shields.
Yeah, 2 shields there. It's all right. You'll get one of those back in a minute.
Yes. When you look at the Raider on paper, like with its 2 energy regen, 2 shield regen, 20 hull, 8 shields, all the upgrade slots, like it's a very intimidating craft.
Oh, it's got so many upgrade slots, which is what is absolutely crazy with that ship. You could just literally pack it to the gills. I think something that for me about Epic is a little bit intimidating is I can add so much, and then you sort of go, right, I'm going to do a 300-point game. Oh no, I've spent 300 points just on the Raider. I can't fit anything in. So it's quite nice to see this being a 500-point game, giving you more scope to add stuff on there. I mean, if we look at the Raider itself, that's 192 points. So that is 2/5 of Amy's list there.
And that's 2 of my Sea Rocks, my most expensive Sea Rock, and any of my other Sea Rocks put together.
Yeah. And then even the Gozanti is 107. So if you think that's 3/5 of the list, it leaves you with essentially the points you'd have for a normal game after.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy.
Whereas I just went, nah, let's have all huge ships. Like, the Sea Rocks used to be cheaper. They used to be 45 points, and you could fit 8 upgraded ones in a list. But they've now made them 58 points, so you can't fit quite as many upgraded ones in, but still.
Oh no, the horror. You can't fit 8. I think TTS would crash if you tried to have 8 Sea Rocks on the table.
I mean, I can understand why they don't have 500-point epic tournaments, because there'll be that one person that brings a large number of Sea Rocks. And how do you beat that? Like, I'm feeling pretty confident about this, because just look at my side of the board.
Yeah, it's intimidating to say the least. And as you said, Red is now, this is shot 1 from Red.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's a range 1 shot into the Raider.
It is indeed. No evade dice for the Raider.
So we'll see. That looks like 2 hits there.
Yes, and then we move on. The Raider is reinforced by Bush, so it's not as bad as it could be. But I've got Point Defense Battery, which has 3 bonus attack slots on it. I have sufficient energy to spend all of them, which means only 2 native dice, but it's range 1, so that's 3 dice.
Yeah.
And time to make the Raiders stay a bit more.
Yeah. So that's 2 hits and a crit there with the Point Defense Battery. So that's another 2 going through. So that's 4 shields already down on the Raider.
If it wasn't going into shields, I'd be using IGRM droids, my team, which is if I'm calculating, which I am, I can change one to a crit as well.
I can see you're already changing one to a crit anyway, because it's always, again, it's good to get in practice of doing those things. So I know that some people will think, oh, there's shields, so I won't change it up to a crit. Always do it. I mean, it's always good practice. If you're shooting anything that says change 1 to a crit, you should always do it, even if you're not going to actually put that crit through, just because you get in practice. And especially with an epic game, unless you're very lucky and you have some very patient friends, I doubt you're going to be playing that many epic games. So it's always good to make sure that you do those as much as possible. So
Yes, Epic in real life takes longer to set up and set down than it does to actually play.
yeah, I mean, it's quite a fortunate thing that we're doing this on TTS, so you don't have to worry about. I mean, just thinking about marking up any of these ships in real life would just be a headache. I mean, I think I've done a 300-point epic game in real life, and although it was so much fun, it does take a long time.
I've played 2 or 3 500-point games, and they're only 2-hour games, but they took all day because you, as you say, you've got to mark up the ships. By the time you've got them out, it's time to stop for a cup of tea because you spent 2 hours getting stuff out of boxes and putting cards down. There's never enough room with Epic. It's so much stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's also quite costly as well to be able to afford all of this. I mean, how many damage decks would you have gone through? Would you need to have just in case for this? Quite a few, I think.
Yes, because you can take a lot of damage on these ships.
Yeah, although you can recycle through them quite easily, just like you're recycling through your shots very quickly there. I think fortunately for Amy, not many of them seem to have gone through.
That reinforce is quite helpful, and I've got only 3 ships for only 3 dice because that automatically negates 1, and she's got so many shields that at the moment it doesn't matter. It's not so dangerous at the moment, although I'm at range 1 of a 4 native attack ship, so I'm about to be a bit more unhappy than she is, I think.
Yeah, 4 native attack there, and then there's the ion cannon battery afterwards. So that's a lot that's going to be coming back at you. And
I've got all of my other ships first, I believe. I don't even got range actually. I think we're going on brown at the moment.
Yeah.
That was the one who.
So yeah, that'll be brown, most likely at the Gozanti there.
Yes, range 2, I believe. I should have a calculate to spend. There it is.
Yeah.
So that is crit double hit. So she's got the reinforced. So that's just crit hit.
Yeah. So when you were playing this, how did you find it actually playing Epic? Obviously, you've done it in real life. You've done it on TTS. What would you say for you was the biggest difference between playing them?
With TTS, it's a lot easier. Like, obviously, as we've discussed, there's none of the hassle of setup and set down. But TTS, I always find it's really hard to get a good like view of it because the view is so dynamic. You can move it whatever. It's kind of hard to keep it all lined up. So trying to keep these ships from bumping is hard enough in real life. It's even harder when you're not quite sure how it's going to move. Because another thing that's different about huge ships is they don't use standard templates. They have a little huge ship tool, which means they're much slower, somewhat unsurprisingly, than real ships. But they also, right when they turn, they pivot on their center point rather than going forward and at an angle. They pivot and then move.
Yeah.
So you can do 0 turns in them, which is where you just rotate 45 degrees, I believe.
So it's around 40. I don't know if it's actually 40. It's around 45 degrees, but I know what you mean. And one thing I've noticed as well is when they do those pivot and bank maneuvers, just like a bank maneuver for a standard ship, sometimes they go a lot further round than you expect.
Yes. Amy is now having the joys of the Turbolaser Battery against her Gozanti, so that's a guaranteed 4 damage because she can only negate 2 of those with her dice and with her reinforce. So yes, that's not bad to only get 1 dice through to do 4 damage. That's always a laugh. But it does cost you 3 energy. Like, it's not something you can do every turn unless you're a raider. But the raider is very expensive, as we discussed.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, you've just got a lot of big guns. I mean, 3 native red dice on that ship as well, plus the additionals. It's quite scary. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to start against that. You'd almost have to try and get in on one of them quickly and try and keep that one in front of the others so that they've got to try and go through the ship. It's probably the only way I could think that you would do it.
Yes, I've I've seen that the Raider is the threat, so I've sent my best ship like right into its face, like to get all that damage in as quickly as possible before the Raider gets like into my lines and just decimates everything.
Yeah, I mean the Raider is an absolutely crazy ship. And
I really want to buy the 2 Imperial ones for my first order because they're both flyable in first order, and they just look very nice. They're nice looking ships.
oh, they are absolutely amazing. I mean, as we've probably discussed on the channel before, I do have all of the epic ships, and I think that in that sort of lower range epic ships, you've got the Gozanti, you've got the Sea Rock, and slightly smaller, you've got the GR75. I think the Gozanti is the best looking of the 3 of those. However, the Sea Rock does. It looks cool. It almost looks like I could imagine this being like Jabba owning it because it has that sort of Jabba sail barge feel to it with that sloping side.
Yes, yes, I can see that.
But I think it's a really tough one for me as to which one I prefer out of the Raider and the Tantive, because obviously the Tantive is iconic. It's the very first ship you ever see in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's, well, I say that if you start with A New Hope. But
it was the first Star Wars ship that was ever revealed.
It was the first Star Wars ship you ever saw on the big screen. And then obviously the next one you saw was the Star Destroyer, which was just insane. But the Tantive is cool. It's just so iconic. The Raider obviously was a later edition, canonized in Battlefront 2. But I just love the fact that it looks like a mini Star Destroyer. It's got those panels on the side that sort of really tie it in with the TIE fighters as well. It's sleek. It just looks really cool.
It's a very menacing looking ship. It's very Empire looking. Like,
oh yeah.
Look at anyone that doesn't even know anything about X-Wing could look at that ship and go, that's an Imperial ship. Because as you say, it's basically a Star Destroyer, but smaller.
Yeah. And I think what I like about it as well is the fact that it basically makes you go, it's the only way I'm going to be able to get something that looks like a Star Destroyer in X-Wing, because, well, if you think about it, if you had a Star Destroyer in X-Wing, it would be bigger than this board that we're on right now. It would be bigger than the 6x3 board.
I'm getting images of the Super Star Destroyer in Armada, like that kind of ridiculous vibe coming off it.
Yeah, I think that would be something they would never actually do, which I think is partly a shame, but also very sensible. I mean, you can probably make it yourself. I mean, I've seen people do like the mats for it to simulate the Star Destroyer, and it's basically like you're playing like the whole mat is the Star Destroyer. So
yes, they are not the smallest of ships. They are. When you see them on their own, they don't really do the scale, like their size justice. Then, if you remember, the Tantive fits into one of the holds of a standard Star Destroyer.
Yes.
And the Tantive is big in X-Wing. It's just the size is just mind-boggling. Then you got the Super Star Destroyers, which can dock Star Destroyers, and you're just like, it's just madness.
It is absolutely crazy. And I mean, there's so many other ships that we could basically see in Epic. I mean, again, another thing we talked about, the Ghost is borderline Epic size. I mean, the Ghost...
The model is ridiculous.
Yeah, mass-wise. I don't think it's that much smaller mass-wise than the actual Gozanti itself.
I can see that, because it's very big.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think we're just coming to the end of the first turn there, so it's now time for everyone to regenerate some shields and some energy. As we can see, the Gozanti did take quite a beating there. It's actually now started through into the hull, as has your aggressive Red Syndicate Smuggler is now into the hull as well.
Yes, but now we come to what this red one is there for. Anyone that doesn't play Epic, if they've seen number 8, episode 8, they'll know what's coming. I call it the Holdo maneuver. In Epic, if a large ship collides with another ship, be it large or standard ship, you start dealing damage just for moving. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
So that is why the red one is so close, because we're going ramming, we're going full speed. So the way it works is for a large ship, or a huge ship rather, when it crashes into another huge ship, both ships, so the Sea Rock and the Raider, will both take crits equal to the speed of the maneuver. So the fastest maneuver you can do is a 5. That's 5 guaranteed crits. For a small ship, only the small ship takes that damage. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then with the small ship as well, what you'll do is you'll place it at range 0 to 1 in the rear arc, and you can decide where it's going to go, can't you?
Yes. So the first player, the one that ran it over, can put it somewhere in its rear arc, full rear arc at 0 to 1, and then the next player, which in this case would be Amy, can then rotate it by up to 90 degrees. So they can choose where it faces, but they can't choose where it's going.
Yeah. So the end part of that is very much like tractoring something now, where you can choose to rotate it 90 degrees, but obviously you put it in that rear arc of the ship.
Yes. So it becomes you want to face it so that if it turns 90 degrees, it can't shoot you in the back at range 1, because obviously you don't have the dice to evade it. But
yeah. However, if you do that to a TIE RB, well, it's got guns forward and back, potentially.
Yes.
So doesn't quite work so well there. But generally speaking, yeah, you could set it up so that there's no way that it can get a shot back in on you. Although, to be honest, are you really going to be that worried about it?
Oh no, you've just dealt a number of crits to it. Like in the TIEs have got no shield, so you run them over. That's a load of free crits. Like it's just a good tactic if you've got disposable huge ships like the Sea Rock is. Like the Sea Rock is neither a support ship nor a gunboat. It kind of tries to fit between the two of them. So being so cheap, you can just ram it and let it die. Like look at all those free hits you got from it.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, just seeing the amount of health on the table on your side, I mean, even on Amy's side, with only 2 epic ships, it's crazy. There's more health there between those 2 ships than you would see in a standard game, unless you're playing something ridiculous, like a swarm of naked B-wings or something. But on your side, I've never seen so many double figures.
Oh yeah, like it's a completely unfair list. Like, look at my list. Like, how is that fair? Because like you do damage to me, as you say, I get it back. I've got guns that are substantially bigger than any standard ship can have, and I've just got 6 of them. Like, it's ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Amy shared a picture of this on one of the Facebook sites as it was being played, and everyone was just like, hold on, what, 6 crocs? What? And then everyone was just asking what was on them, and it was just like, well, essentially what's not on them. They are the most stacked squadron I've ever seen, and it's a good job that there's no sort of wing tool to fly epic ships in formation, because that would be crazy.
That would be hilarious. I would definitely be down for that.
I mean, to be honest, I can't wait for the Trident class.
Oh, the squid. What a beautiful ship.
It's such a cool ship, and I can't wait to see that on the board as well.
And it's weird attacks, it can reverse, and it's got special tentacles and beaks and drills, and it's got AI cards, and it's just lots of new interesting stuff is coming with it as well. So it's just cool.
Yeah, the AI cards are pretty cool. And I am looking forward to that.
Yes, it's a shame they haven't said anything more about it. Like, that was revealed a while ago now.
Yeah, it was a fair bit of time ago. I'm wondering if they're at the moment concentrating on trying to get Skystrike to anywhere other than the US, because at the moment we're still waiting for Skystrike to turn up.
Yes, again, another thing that's the beauty of TTS. Like, I've played against people that have got Skystrike. Like, there's Skystrike in play now, because TTS, you don't have to have bought 6 crocs. You can just fly 6 crocs. Like, TTS may have its faults, but it has a load of advantages as well.
Yeah, I will say that I do really enjoy TTS. I know I've said it quite a few times. It's definitely made this period of lockdown a lot saner, shall we say, than it would have been previously. So it has been a bit of a blessing there.
Yes. The thought of not having played X-Wing for over a year is upsetting, considering the amount of time I've invested in it.
Yeah. So we're just starting in on turn 2, and that's the 2 standard ships that are on the board moved. Yeah, also, as well, you look at the ships, there are 10 ships on the board, and only 20% of them currently are standard ships.
Yes.
80% are epic, huge ships, which is also quite crazy.
And the medium base TIE Brutes look tiny.
Yeah, I mean, you hold those in your hand, you're like, oh, this is a meaty ship. You look at the rest, you're like, no, not at all. So something I wanted to quickly go through as well, which is something that's slightly different with Epic than Standard, is we've mentioned already about the Turbolaser batteries and the point defense batteries, etc. But there's actually, what's quite interesting is that there is an online and offline side to the cards. So we haven't really gone through any of the crits because there's just so much going on. It's quite difficult to keep track of them. But some of the crits in Epic work slightly different to the crits in your standard game. Yes, they've got that added flavour when you have a face. Ooh.
There's the ram.
There's the first ram.
Yes.
This
so
is where
we should be dealing some crits now. What convenient timing.
There are a lot of crits about to be dealt now. And we do have a list of some of the crits that are suffered here. So I'll go through a few in a moment. But with the crits, there are 2 parts to it. You have your standard crit part at the bottom, which has things like damaged circuitry. So when you recover 1 energy during the end phase, recover 1 fewer energy to a minimum of 0. But you also have the precision shot part of this, which if you're in certain arcs, when you receive this, you will get a slightly different and worse crit, which will actually, a lot of them will turn your guns offline. So turret disabled means you'll flip your point defense battery, ion cannon battery, etc., over to the offline side, and you'll actually need to spend charges to turn them back on, essentially.
Yes, and also red maneuvers cost energy as well. You don't, as a general rule, you don't get stress as an epic ship, as a huge ship. If you would get stress, you spend energy instead, unless you can't spend an energy because you've run out. Also, you might have seen me shuffling my Sea Rock back and forward. Another thing about huge ships is they cannot be at range 0 of another huge ship. If you make a maneuver that does not fit, so you bump, you reverse it, and you do speed slower maneuvers up to a stop where it will actually fit. So I can ram, and then I can shoot as well. So that's a 5 free crits, and I also get to shoot as well, because there's none of that range 0.
Yeah, absolute brutality there. And so yeah, that's 5 health off of the Raider there. And we will see some health coming off of the Red Syndicate Smuggler as well, as you'll, because it happens to both of you, doesn't it? So obviously, I mean, you'd have to have an extremely well armored prow to not suffer damage yourself, similar to maybe the Hammerhead from Rogue One. But even that one, you could see it took a fair pounding when it rammed when they rammed those Star Destroyers.
Yes, that would be one I'd like to see I'd like to see them release if they're going to start releasing more huge ships. I'd love a Hammerhead.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I think a lot of people have debated that, and there's an issue between the scaling of that. In that, is it the same size as the Tantive? Is it bigger than the Tantive? That there's a lot of debate on that, but I would love to see the Hammerhead.
X-Wing has a very loose relationship with scaling. Just look at an A-Wing or the Slave One or the first edition silencer. X-Wing scale is what looks cool, not what's correct.
Yeah, absolutely. But to be honest, it looks cool. I'm happy with that. So I will take it.
Yes. I suppose I should just point out another sneaky tactic that my red Sea Rocker's got. It's got Dead Man Switch, so when it dies, it does even more damage to you. And it's also got an epic command card called Stalwart Captain, which means when I die, I don't get removed to the end of the turn. So you can kill me at any point before I shoot, I still get to shoot you.
So that ship is really there to cause as much hurt as quickly as possible and then still keep causing that hurt.
Yes, it's entirely sacrificial. Its entire purpose is to get in. It doesn't matter how much damage it takes, as long as it deals an equal or preferably greater amount to the far more threatening ship that is the Raider.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Raider is very threatening. I mean, it's got a lot of health and you want to get rid of it. I mean, one thing I would be interested in from the people that are watching this, what ships would they like to see introduced in epic scale? Because there's a lot of ships out there, and I'd be interested, what do you think needs to be epic? What do you think deserves to be an epic? What's the one?
I mean, the Venator's always going to be the favourite, right? Everyone wants to see the Venator.
I think the Venator's too big.
Oh really? Oh, because it's a Proto Star Destroyer, isn't it?
I think it's the Acclamator is the smaller one, but even that I think might be too big. I mean, for me, I want to see the Consular class from episode 1 because I think
the red one.
The red one, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd love it if they actually made the cockpit section detachable. Like it is in canon, because that's actually an escape pod.
That'd be hilarious.
It'd be quite cool if they did that. So very similar to the Lando's Falcon. I think that would be pretty.
That'd be like a large base escape pod. Like a huge ship dies and gives birth to a large base ship. That'd be brilliant.
I reckon medium base if they did it. I reckon medium base would be quite good on that. But yeah, what other ships out there would you guys want to see as an epic ship?
I mean, Republic is the only one that's due a second one at the moment, I believe. Because I think every other, now that we've got the Trident for Separatist, I believe every other faction has 2 epic ships.
Yes.
Because the Scum and Separatist have the Sea Rock and the Trident.
Yeah.
First Order and Empire have these 2 on the board here, the Gozanti and the Raider.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Resistance has the GR-75 and the Tantive, like Rebellion.
I'm just going to have a double check that. I know it's got the GR-75, but I'm not sure if it actually has.
Oh no, because the Tantive didn't come into Resistance till episode 9, and the huge ship pack came out before that. So maybe you're right. Because I know Republic only have the Tantive; they don't have anything else. So maybe Resistance are due one as well. Although they'll get the GR7.
They'll just get the Tantive.
Yes.
They'll basically just go, right, what have the Rebels got? Let's just either make it slightly more sophisticated or dirty it up a bit, and then the Resistance can get it. So yeah, Resistance currently only has the GR-75, so they're also due one. But I mean, I'd like to see fresh ones come in for them.
I do feel like that's a missed opportunity, because when you think about the prequels and the originals, they have you can see the family lineage, but as a general rule, their types of ship are completely different. But then in the sequel trilogy, it's literally a copy and paste of the original. So the First Order have TIEs and TIE interceptors, and the Resistance have slightly bigger X-wings and slightly bigger Y-wings. Like it's a shame that they didn't take a new artistic direction like they could have done.
Well, I think at least with the First Order, there's more of a change there. I mean, you look at the Silencer, you look at the TIE-FO. Yes, it does look very similar to your normal TIE fighter, but it is an upgrade on that. And then you add the TIE-SF in there, which was pretty cool, and you don't normally get that. So that was quite interesting. And then you've got a few other bits. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think Resistance could do with... It'd be nice if they had something fresh in there.
Is there anything fresh they could be given, though? Because I'm thinking back to... Beyond the fact that they had literally every ship ever at the end of 9, like, they didn't have... Oh, I know, because there was the one that the holder maneuver was done in, but that's way too big for this. But
Yeah.
like, I don't think they have that many unique things they could do.
You've got the transport ship that they used in episode 8 to get down to Crate. That could potentially be like another similar GR-75 style ship.
They need a meaty attack ship though, like the Titan or the
they need something
Vader.
there. Yeah, so it might be worth just going back through some of the visual dictionaries that they have and seeing what's in there. I like looking at Armada and looking at their like almost their 2-base swarm ships, the 2-packs. That for me is where I sort of get a few clues as to what might come eventually down the line. So,
I mean, do you think they could do what they did with the Decimator and the Raider, and they make it in X-Wing and then canonize it later, like for the Resistance, so they have something a bit more interesting? Or do you think Disney would be like, nah, mate?
I'm not sure, to be honest, on how it works. I know that obviously previously there were things they had a little bit more leeway, but it all really depends. It's that whole licensing thing. I don't know how much scope they've got with it, and I don't think unless AMG decide they want to be really nice and just start giving me extra info. If you're listening, AMG, I'm definitely up for that. I don't know whether we'll ever see things at that level, but it would be quite cool.
Yes, because it would be nice that the Resistance got something Resistance exclusive and not just, as you say, a beefed up or dirtied version of something that's well used by the Rebellion.
Yeah, I mean, there is the argument that there are some stuff there already. You've got the Fireball, you've got the MG100, and you've got the Resistance Transport, but I don't think there's anything that you see regularly that is unique to it.
No, I think it's because the direction they were trying to go in is they were trying to show that the Resistance were like the last gasp, like unlike the Rebellion, which could fund itself because it had actual like legitimate systems that were ruled by the Rebellion or part of the Rebellion. The Resistance were the last hope of the galaxy. Everyone else had just given up, like they were the only ones. But then of course you went to the part in 8 where DJ shows them that people that sell the TIE fighters also sell X-Wings. You're like, they don't seem to quite like settle on a dynamic.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to get more stuff anyway with all the new movies that are coming out and all the new TV shows. There's going to be enough interesting stuff in there, which I'm assuming that Disney may have already shared some of it with like stills with AMG.
So many new TV shows. I mean, I assume we're getting a souped-up Ewing from the Andor TV show because that would be cool.
Yeah. Well, guys, what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to break this into 3 parts. So that's part 1. We're just ending at the end of turn 2 movement. What we'll do in part 2, we'll come back for the shooting for round 2, and myself and Quinn will ramble on a little bit more. But in the meantime, guys, obviously like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell to know when part 2 is coming up, and we will see you next time.